It began like any other House Oversight Committee hearing, tense, theatrical, but largely predictable. The session was set to address allegations of overreach by the Department of Justice in recent criminal investigations involving members of Congress. But within 20 minutes, it would devolve into something far more volatile, something that would trend worldwide within the hour and fracture political discourse even further. Representative Jasmine Crockett, a first-term Democrat from Texas, had been gaining national attention for her unapologetically blunt style, razor-sharp comebacks, and fiery interrogations of political opponents. A former civil rights attorney, she didn't come to Washington to play nice. She came to fight. Across from her sat Representative Jim Jordan, a Republican heavyweight, chairman of the Judiciary Committee, and one of the loudest defenders of what he termed patriotic accountability. Known for his bulldog style and refusal to back down, Jordan was ready for a battle. What he wasn't ready for, what no one was how personal this one would get. The cameras were rolling live. C-SPAN, MSNBC, Fox. Even YouTube streamers had their reactions queued up. The hearing's first half was standard political theater. Each party lobbing questions meant more for sound bites than answers. Crockett sat silently during the opening hour, flipping through notes and highlighting key phrases. But her energy was different today, coiled, tightly wound, explosive. Then Jordan made the mistake that detonated the room. During a cross-questioning exchange about Department of Justice subpoenas targeting far-right groups, Jordan snidely remarked, "Some members here seem more interested in turning this into a race narrative rather than sticking to the facts." The moment the words left his mouth, the temperature in the room dropped 5 degrees. Crockett raised her head slowly, her eyebrows inching toward the ceiling. A low murmur stirred from the audience gallery. Jordan continued, doubling down. "I mean, let's not pretend the DOJ is hunting people down because of the color of their skin. That's a liberal myth that gets recycled for political gain." That was it. Crockett leaned forward, microphone turned fully toward her, lips pursed into a smirk that spelled imminent fire. She adjusted her blazer, cleared her throat, and dropped the first verbal strike. "Let me make something real clear, Mr. Jordan. This is exactly what racism looks like." Gasps. No one breathed. Even the stenographer paused for half a second. You want to erase race from this conversation when it's at the center of how these investigations are weaponized? You want to silence black voices in this room under the guise of facts? Then guess what? You're not here for justice. You're here to protect your comfort. Jordan raised a hand trying to speak. Crockett sliced in, her voice rising. You don't get to define what racism is when you've never lived through it. And you sure as hell don't get to tone police me while ignoring the systemic rot that got us here in the first place. Pandemonium broke out. Members banged desks. Republicans demanded she be silenced. Democrats shouted, "Order!" The chair pounded the gavel, shouting to restore control. But the floodgate had opened. Representative Crockett didn't back down, not for a second. As the committee chair attempted to gavel the session back to order, she remained locked on Jordan with a stare so fierce it felt like it might shatter glass. Jim Jordan, usually smug and unshakable, looked uncharacteristically rattled. His jaw tensed. He muttered something under his breath, barely caught by the hot mic. "She's unhinged." Crockett heard it. "Oh, now I'm unhinged?" she snapped. Because I didn't let you rewrite my reality to fit your whitewashed narrative? The room burst again. The chair, now visibly sweating, tried to intervene. Ms. Crockett, I must ask you to refrain from personal accusations. She fired back without missing a beat. Is it personal to call racism what it is? Or is it only personal when it makes white men uncomfortable? The entire hearing teetered on collapse. Even seasoned political journalists were stunned. This wasn't rhetoric. This was a raw, unscripted, emotional confrontation that tore past political theater and exposed the festering wound at the core of American power. Social media exploded. Within minutes, the hashtag #this is what racism looks like began trending globally. Memes, reaction videos, live commentary, they all surged. Some declared Crockett a hero, a modern-day Shirley Chisholm. Others called her angry, divisive, even dangerous. Outside the chamber, a crowd of activists began to form. Word had spread fast. By the time the committee recessed, hundreds stood outside the Capitol steps, holding signs with Crockett's quote printed in bold. This is exactly what racism looks like. Jordan's office issued a bland statement calling for civility and focus on the issues, but he refused to apologize. Crockett did the opposite. She doubled down. That evening on MSNBC, she appeared for a remote interview with Joy Reid. They always want the volume turned down when black women speak the truth, she said. Well, guess what? I didn't come to Congress to whisper. Just as the committee tried to move on to the next witness, something unplanned detonated. A faint feedback sound buzzed from the chamber speakers. Then a voice, Jordan's voice, played aloud through a hot mic that had apparently been left open during the recess earlier that day. She's going to try and pull the race card. Let her. It'll just make her look like she's playing victim again. Gasps, audible gasps. The room froze. Crockett sat perfectly still, her eyes locked on Jordan. The air thickened with shock. Chairs creaked as journalists rose from their seats. "Who played that?" shouted one of Jordan's aides, but it was too late. Crockett slowly leaned into the microphone. "For the record, I didn't play anything, but you just played yourself." The room exploded in a storm of voices, Democrats calling for censure, Republicans demanding to cut the feed. The chairman fumbled for order, banging the gavel as if it could erase what had been heard. Jordan's face was a storm of denial and panic. "That wasn't... Someone edited that. That's not real." "Then call for an investigation," Crockett said coolly. "I'll testify, under oath." The clip hit Twitter like a lightning bolt. It trended worldwide in under an hour. Dozens of news outlets picked it up. Jordan exposed in hot mic disaster. Crockett holds the line. Racism recorded. Back in the chamber, Crockett finally stood, gathered her notes, and delivered her final shot. "You didn't just reveal what you think of me. You revealed what you think of all of us. And America heard you." She walked out. The feed didn't cut to black. It didn't have to. As Jasmine Crockett walked out of the Oversight Committee chamber, the storm she unleashed had already spilled across every screen in America. Within minutes, clips of her confrontation with Jim Jordan, and most damningly, the hot mic audio, were on every major network. At CNN's headquarters in Atlanta, a team of producers huddled in a panic. "We need her live in the 8 p.m. slot." MSNBC's evening anchor tweeted, "Jasmine Crockett just set the new standard for speaking truth in Congress." Meanwhile, on Fox News, the panel erupted into damage control, labeling the leak a clear setup. They speculated about doctored audio and suggested Crockett's team planted it to frame a white conservative male. Jordan's office released a rushed statement within the hour. The leaked audio is taken out of context and clearly edited. Congressman Jordan has always supported robust dialogue and transparency in congressional proceedings. But it was too late. Civil rights leaders, grassroots organizers, and everyday Americans began flooding social media with clips, hashtags, and demands for accountability. Even celebrities jumped in. Kerry Washington reposted Crockett's, quote, "This is what racism looks like," adding, "This is what leadership looks like too." On Capitol Hill, Jordan was cornered. His own party began to fracture. While hardliners circled the wagons, moderates distanced themselves. Behind closed doors, two GOP committee members expressed to Politico that Jordan had gone too far and played into every stereotype the party is trying to shake. Meanwhile, Crockett remained calm, silent, strategic. She declined all media interviews and disappeared from public view for 24 hours. Her team issued only one statement. The Congresswoman said what needed to be said. The rest is for the country to process. As pressure mounted, the Oversight Committee announced an emergency ethics review of the hot mic incident. If proven real and unaltered, it could constitute a violation of congressional code and a fireable offense. Jim Jordan had underestimated the storm. He wasn't facing a single political opponent anymore. He was facing a movement. The next session of the Oversight Committee felt more like a courtroom than a legislative hearing. Journalists flooded the gallery. Activists stood outside with signs that read, "Crockett speaks for us," "Racism has a microphone," or "Jordan resign." The room buzzed with tension as Chair James Comer called the meeting to order. Jim Jordan entered through a side door, face pale, jaw set. Gone was the swagger. What remained was a man visibly on the defensive. Then came the curveball no one saw coming. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez requested special time on the floor and introduced a motion. A formal censure of Representative Jim Jordan for conduct unbecoming of a member of Congress. Gasps rippled through the room. It wasn't just about a fight, it was now a vote on character. The motion cited the hot mic comments, prior pattern of dismissive and hostile behavior toward colleagues of color, a violation of decorum and dignity in congressional discourse. Jordan immediately protested, "This is a political hit job. You all know I didn't say it the way it sounds. This is a trap set by—" But then Jasmine Crockett entered the room, wearing white, calm, collected. Her entrance alone caused the room to fall silent. She took her seat across from Jordan and calmly requested to speak. The chairman hesitated, then nodded. "Let me be crystal clear," Crockett began, her voice low but firm. "This censure is not about a personal feud. It's about a pattern where the experiences of Black Americans are dismissed, silenced, and mocked. This is not theater. This is trauma. This is the truth." The room held its breath. And when a member of Congress, especially one with your influence, refers to a Black woman's testimony as a race card, that's not oversight. That's a cover-up for centuries of silence. She turned directly to Jordan. "You didn't just insult me. You insulted every voter who put me here. And they're watching." Thunderous applause erupted in the gallery. Jordan looked around, visibly rattled. He tried to respond, but the gavel came down. The vote on the censure motion was called. Final tally, checkmark, censure passed. 23 to 19, four Republicans crossed the aisle. Jordan stood frozen. Crockett didn't gloat. She simply leaned back and whispered, "Accountability always arrives, eventually." The aftermath of the confrontation became one of the most discussed political moments of the year. Within a week, Jasmine Crockett appeared on 60 Minutes, where she calmly told Anderson Cooper, "I didn't come to Congress to be polite. I came to be heard." Her congressional approval ratings skyrocketed. She was invited to headline speaking events, panels on race and justice, and even got whispers of a future Senate run. A viral mural went up in Houston, Crockett mid-speech with the words, "This is what racism looks like," painted behind her, but crossed out in red, replaced with, "This is what resistance looks like." Meanwhile, Jim Jordan's political future was uncertain. Though the censure didn't remove him from office, it permanently stained his record. More tapes began circulating, past committee moments where he interrupted, talked over, or dismissed women of color. His press team stopped scheduling appearances. His base eroded. And then, weeks later, Crockett returned to the same chamber for a new hearing. This time, she walked into a standing ovation. One reporter asked her as she passed, "What do you say to those who think you went too far?" She stopped, smiled slightly, and said, "If you think standing up to racism is too far, then you were never planning to move at all." The camera caught her walking past Jordan, who sat silent. And America had already chosen whose mic they were still listening to.